Okay, we're going to look at 3 different graphs of temps from the greenhouse. One in the dead of winter when it was the coldest here, the second one kind of early spring, and the next one kind of late spring. The motivation, I put this sensor in the greenhouse in late December, and the plan was to make a video every month or two of how the temps were doing. I just haven't done it. Fortunately, one of the YouTube commenters on one of my videos, D. Hatchett, had mentioned a couple times that he was looking forward to, or she, I'm sorry, I don't know, was looking forward to the videos of the temps, and so that got me motivated, so thank you for that. So the first one we're looking at here is from early December to kind of late December to late January, and about a month period. So, you know, it looks like the average temp is 64 degrees. The minimum that it got down to is 44, and the max is 96. So this is the coldest time of year here in southern Colorado, and it gets, in this valley, it gets down to, you know, we had a couple days of minus 20. We had a few days of minus 20, and we had one day of minus 25. I don't remember which day it was, but it was right here in early January. And you can see, if you follow the top of the graphs, you can see where the sun days were, where it got pretty warm up into the 80s and 90s. The cloudy days where it looks like it got into the upper 70s. So that one little tiny spike that's way down below, kind of right above where it says December 27, right above the 27. So that high spike there, that was the day I was replacing the door. So I had taken the old cheap door off that I put on that was all warped and fallen apart, and I put on a steel door that, and so I had the door off basically the whole day. So it never warmed up in there that day. And you can see even after having the door off all day when it was very cold outside, that night it still didn't get super cold in there. It was still in the 40s. So that's just an example of how that thermal mass re-radiates the heat back into the room. What else on this? And it looks like later in the month there's a spike there that's just barely above 64. And yeah, that was probably a day we had the door open and we're working out there. So it's doing the job. Now the temperatures, the average temperature, and I'm just going to guess and say most of the month of January, it does not get above freezing outside. So we might have one a day that was like 35 in that whole period that we're looking at on this first graph right here. So the average temp, I don't know what the average outdoor ambient temp was, but it's freezing. And of course at night it's getting to minus 10, minus 15 commonly, minus 20 less commonly, and we, like I said, we did hit minus 25 once. All right, so on this graph, this is late February through late March, and so just about a month we're looking at here. Averaging 69 degrees, which looks like a maximum of 101, a minimum of 49.87, so a minimum of 50. Now, pretty consistent highs and lows inside the greenhouse in early February, in kind of early to mid-March, and then my guess would be that on those days where you see the very low high temps, where the high temps are very low, close to the average, that's where we had the doors open, and maybe cloudy days as well. We did open the vents right around early March when it was hitting 100, and so we opened both vents above that were the automatic vents that let the heat passively escape, and then some days we opened the bottom cooling tube as well to let that cool air come in to replace that hot air that was escaping. And so that solar engine works really well and would really cool it off. So you have to be kind of careful with when you open that door and what the temperatures are like outside, because the heat still keeps rising inside there. The greenhouse keeps making heat, the walls keep radiating heat into the room, and that keeps rising and trying to escape out the top vents, and it'll just pull that cool air in through the bottom. So it does take a little bit of attention, but you can still see even when the temperature didn't get up to average 2 or 3 of those days there, that even at night it still didn't freeze. It was still 50 degrees in there. So, you know, I can't complain about that. but our management of it, we're not out there every day looking at the temperature, adjusting the vents or whatever. That's why I put automatic vents on. And the plants, of course, seem to do fine and tolerate those little temperature swings. Definitely not freezing still. My thinking is, last fall, if you watched any of the temperature videos from last fall on this greenhouse, on this thermal mass greenhouse, it got super, super hot for several weeks. It was really hot in there. And that's why I ended up putting the solar stuff in there just to try to help keep it cool, the solar fans. So I'm not noticing, I thought it would be just as hot this spring, but I think the reason it's not getting as hot this spring is because even though the sun's low and it's still warming the thermal mass at this time of year, that the thermal mass overall temperature is cooler because it just came out of winter. And so in the summer, when the average thermal mass temperature is warmer because it's collecting heat and collecting heat and collecting heat every day all summer long, by the time fall comes and the sun starts to get low in the sky and shine to the back of the greenhouse and hit the thermal mass, that it's already really warm. And so I think that's what makes it so hot in the fall. That's a guess, but that's my working theory right now. Okay, but still average 69 degrees. The coldest graph we looked at a few minutes ago is 64 degrees on average. So still, still a good temperature. And on this third and final graph, we're just looking at late April to late May. And, late May, the summer's getting close to the summer solstice, which is June 21st. So the sun is not really hitting the back wall at all, barely hitting the floor in late May. In fact, not even hitting the floor when I was looking the other day. It's just hitting the planter. It's hitting all the plants in the planter. So it's not warming really any major thermal mass in there like the floor or the back wall, but it is still warming the planter. So because just the sun's so high in the sky. And of course, June 21st, it'll be the highest it's going to be. And then it'll start, of course, going down toward the south as every day gets shorter and shorter after that as we head toward winter. So the temps here, maximum 88, which I'm really happy with. This is with all three vents open. So the two upper vents that are the automatic vents, and then the lower door that covers the cooling tube. And once in a while, when Dawn's working out there, she'll turn on the solar fan and just let it run just to circulate some air. Okay, minimum of 58, which is almost a minimum of 60 degrees, and a maximum of 88. So, and you can see some days there where we had the doors open, and so the temperature inside the greenhouse didn't get very high. But, about mid-May, Dawn, the plants were so tall, and you'll see that in the videos coming up in just a couple minutes. The plants were so tall in the greenhouse, blocking the sun. They were the broccoli and the tomatoes were 4, 5, and 6 feet tall, and just massive plants, and just blocking all of the sun trying to get to the back of the greenhouse. So the plants behind those, weren't getting hardly any sun. So she did a mass just trimming and cutting, and pulled out several tomatoes and transplanted them to another little greenhouse that we have. And that really opened up the windows, opened up the sunlight, and opened up the solar gain. So it's just crazy. You have to kind of plan where your plants go in a greenhouse like this, because they'll just grow and grow and grow like crazy because the conditions are just so optimal. And then they kind of overshade anything else you're trying to grow. So planting shorter things maybe in the front toward the window and taller things in the back. The problem with that, of course, is then you can't really get to the things in the front because the things in the back of the planter are so tall that you can't hardly reach around them or get through them. So, but we've had so many good salads, and let's check out the greenhouse next. So late March. It's just nasty here. We can't plant outside anyway because things freeze until mid-June. But even if we could plant outside, the wind would destroy everything this time of year. So it blows pretty hard for a couple months. And but yeah, Dawn harvested a bunch of 2 big handfuls of the small tomatoes right here. A bunch of Swiss chard. She's gonna make a salad. Some arugula, some kale as well. So the broccoli that she trimmed back is starting to grow back. There, already starting to produce again. Of course, these broccoli plants were up to here, and she's cut them down to here. So they're still 24, 28, 30 inches tall. Easy. But yeah, nice. We might get to harvest peas again. I harvested a bunch of peas last week and we had them for dinner. I'm sorry, green beans. And there's a bunch more green beans there. The bell peppers are getting exciting because this is one plant. And it just kind of was kind of dormant, just kind of lived. It didn't really grow, and all of a sudden it started growing and producing. So whatever happened, I don't know, but it's growing. There's more flowers up here. Yeah. This okra, maybe Glenn, you can comment on this. Glenn's a good Texas boy. And what variety? It's a lot wider than the other variety that we've planted. This tomato plant got huge. She did pick a large, maybe a couple inch diameter, 2 or 3 inch diameter off that one that was turning red, so that's good. The strawberries, surprisingly, for getting not much direct sun, are growing and blooming. So yeah, it's kind of neat to see that. Again, we're just recycling that water. We just dumped it. Yeah, cool. And then over here, the potatoes are literally growing 2, 3, 4, a couple inches every day. So the last was Friday. We covered all these plants up. We came in today. I should have videoed this before we covered them up again. They were literally had grown 6 to 8 inches in 3 days. So we covered them up again, mixed some sand in with the, and you can see how much they've grown. 3 weeks ago, we planted these potatoes in about that much dirt, just about 9 inches of dirt, and they just had little tiny chits on them. These potatoes did. And so Dawn planted them in there, and in 3 weeks, the dirt's almost at the top of the bucket, and you can see where the plants are growing out. And we still didn't even get them all the way buried, even though we put over 6 inches of dirt in. So that's pretty awesome that that's working. So, Swiss chard, right? Kale and arugula.
Mm-hmm.
Tomatoes.
Purple leaf lettuce.
Purple leaf lettuce. Zucchini. What else is from the garden?
And the medium heirloom tomato.
And so there's a piece of heirloom tomato. And salmon from last fishing season, caught last August. Home smoked. And honey.
Glazed.
Honey glazed, yeah. Yum. There's still lots of zucchini and lots of tomatoes in there. Yum.